This is our start in doing some more queries, and we're using the IC House Better database, and I will have emailed you the version that I want you to use. If perchance when you actually open up your database it comes up with the security warning of enable content, please enable content at all time. It's a pain that it does it, and there are ways to turn it off, but if you don't turn it off there might be some things that you do later and you may lose when you do your own database. So straight away when you see enable content, click on that. As I've introduced to you a while back, I never start my queries and the actual database before I actually look at the relationships, just to reacquaint myself with what's happening with the database. So with my experienced mind here, I have a look at this and quickly I can see that there's a transaction table there. Here we have a staff, we have a house that belongs to staff, which is a one-to-many from house to staff. We have students, and we have a thing called roster. We could call it role or roster, which shows us the events that a student may be in. Also, just as a reminder, when you set up your database, as I've said before, everywhere you see a many, there, here, and here, in your design they should all be combo boxes, which will be what I call sucking out data from their parent table. Okay, based on the document that I sent out to you, section 1A says selection queries, simple query using one table and a criterion. Criterion being singular. If I mark up and call it criteria, I understand, but please, one criteria is criterion, and then many is criteria. What we're going to do right now is we're actually going to do a query that's going to have a look at all the students that belong to a particular house. Now we may have done that before, I understand that. Before I do so, I'll just check. Okay, yeah, we have done that. So I'm going to turn that around. I'm going to do all the staff that belong to a particular house. Now in that case we're looking at staff and a house, so that's more than one table, and then we're going to put a criteria in there. So I'm going to go to, and so are you, at your own speed, create query design, and we're going to add in just the tables that we need, which is house, staff. What I will say right now is, what I say to everybody is, beware the floating table. In other words, if I chuck in another table in here, like that for example, can you see how that's floating and there's no link to it? That creates all sorts of problems. It will either give you thousands of more records, sometimes tens of thousands of records more than you expect, or it will give you no result. So unless you know really specifically what you're doing, you should never have a floating table in your query. There should be something that links it together. We actually don't need this table for this query, so I'm going to remove it. So now what I'm looking for is, I'm looking for the house. I might want to know where we're going to go for the headquarters, because we might be giving this to our actual staff and new staff and old staff. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to show what their status is at this time. Surname, we're going to put the given name and surname together. Usually we read given name and surname. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a criteria here, and the criteria is simply going to be Jeffcott. Going to save that now. So I'm going to click on here, save, QRY for a prefix of query, Jeffcott, house, and I might even add staff so we can actually see how it's different. Okay, we go there, And then what I do is check to see if it works. So there we go. We see we've got, and if you have a look right down here, it says 9 records. We can make that look a bit later. Look at that a bit later. Now, can I just ask you to look at this particular query? Now, this query is repeating Jeffcott, and yet we're looking at Jeffcott. There's a good reason not to have that included in the query, because we already know that's what the query is. So we can actually go to the design view if you think it's a good idea. And what you can do is still do the search, but you can actually say, I don't want to see it. And we can now sort also by surname ascending order. And we can now do a search. And there we have it. Now we may want to just rearrange that so that we have the given name, the surname, but this now makes a bit of sense, showing us all the staff names of the Jeffcott staff. I'm now going to let you save that and just let that sink in, and then we'll go back to something like this next.